It's not the easiest thing to come to terms with, but sometimes the people closest to you end up being the poison that you need to purge right out of your life. And yes, I'm talking about toxic family members. And you are now tuned in to Queen's podcast, Against All Odds, where no topic is off limits, truth has no filter, and my pain became my power. Being quiet never saved me. I'm just here to share my experience, because those reality checks were hard, but I became the storm that they couldn't withstand. And rising above it is rare. I'm your host, QueenC, and around here, we don't sugarcoat. We turn our stories into strength and figure this shit out. A lot of our wounds don't come from enemies. They come from home. And for a lot of people, it'll happen for such a long period of time that you become so accustomed to it that you don't even know how deep they really cut you until you're finally on that healing journey. And when you make the decision to be dedicated to yourself, to finding your own inner peace and your own happiness, that's what's going to cause you to start reflecting and digging deeper. And then you realize that, damn, some of these people that were closest to me did the most damage. So before we get into it, let me just apologize to everybody for not dropping that episode last week. You guys, it has been a crazy 2 weeks for me. Like I told you guys in episode 5, we had lost little T-Mac, and as I was preparing for that funeral, I was in charge of designing the obituaries for my family. But shortly after his passing, my bonus son got the call that his father was murdered in Miami. So he immediately flew out there that night. And as I'm checking on him every day and talking to him, I just realized he really wasn't taking it well. So it just felt like it was only right that, I get out there and support him and be there for him and his family. And on top of that, my kids, they felt like it was the right thing to do. We needed to be out there. So we booked a last minute flight to Miami and we headed out there. It's a trip, attending 2 funerals in 1 week. It's a lot. I mean, funerals in general, they always make me reflect real heavy on life. I get to thinking about when it's my time to go. I always hope and pray that my kids will have the support that they need during that time. And as far as my bonus son, he's been a part of our family for a while. He started off as my daughter's boyfriend when they were fresh in high school. And I'll never forget, when I first found out she had a boyfriend, I was on her ass. You know how we are about our daughters. But it was like, no matter how much trouble this girl got in, nothing could keep her away from that boy. So eventually we met him. And it was funny because it was like, from the moment we met him, nothing could keep us away from him either. It was like he just meshed really, really well with our family. And, I grew to love him like my own son. And he eventually came to live with us. And I remember going to Miami to meet his family. And his dad's side is from Miami. And the very first time that I met his grandmother, I knew instantly, why he was the way that he was. He comes from a very loving family. Like, they're very close-knit. And I just knew, like, okay, that's what makes him the way that he is. And that was some years ago. But I gave that woman my word that, he was in safe hands with me. And that I would take care of him and look after him like he was one of my own. And I meant that. So, going back there this time under these circumstances and seeing everything that they were going through, that it was really hard. And after the funeral for his dad, we all flew back, and the very next day was T-Mac's funeral. So it was just a lot, you guys. It was a lot to take in. On my flight back from Miami, I was thinking real heavy about family and how there's such a big difference when you come from a loving family, where you have that one person that's kind of holding everybody together and pouring love into them. It shows. There's a big difference, and it really, really shows. Because on the flip side, when you got that toxic family, ain't nobody pouring love into each other. Everybody's just trauma dumping and got this baggage and this bullshit. That shit can really fuck some people up. And it's sad because a lot of times when you grow up in that situation, you don't even see it. You won't see the damage that it actually creates, and it comes out in your adulthood, in your dealings now with your family or how you are as a person. One thing I've come to realize the older I get is that Family does not need to be the family that you were born into. If you haven't earned that place in my life, I'm not going to consider you family. Family is the family that you create, whether it be your family in your household or, the people closest to you who have grown to turn into your family. That's the family that matters, because blood don't mean shit. There is family out there that will do more damage than any enemy possibly could try to get close to doing. It's real sad that the people you were raised around, and sometimes the people that raised you, end up being the very ones that you have to heal from. And nobody talks about how heavy that shit is, or how real it is, and how often it happens. You would think that family means loyalty and love and protection, when for some of us, that shit is the origin of our pain, the root to our problems. And what's wild about it is we won't even notice it until we're grown. When we're sitting in therapy somewhere, or we're fighting with our own kids, or we're in a toxic relationship wondering why we tolerate so much. But it's because deep down, we've been trained to tolerate dysfunction, to normalize the gaslighting, to excuse the abuse just because it comes wrapped in blood ties or trauma bonds. Like, this shit is really traumatic in a sense. That's why it is so important to instill those type of qualities in your children, to pour that into the family that you create. Because if not, they're not going to be raised knowing the importance of what family means. My mom was real big on always teaching me to look after my sister, take care of your sister. And, for me with my kids, I'm very big on that. And I've been that way since the day they were born. You cross my kids, you are one and done. You will never get another chance to hurt mine. You will never get a chance to play with my kids. And as far as each other, I always try to teach them, you look after them, you protect them. That's what family means. And if your family is not treating you the same way, your outside family, your cousins, your aunties, I don't care who it is, cut them off. That was one thing I was always grateful for when it came to my kid's dad, because he felt the same exact way as I did. If you weren't any good for our kids or our household, you weren't coming in. And it was just as simple as that. It didn't matter who you were. Our family is the family that we chose to create, and the people that we want a part of our lives, not because we're blood related. And we're trained as humans to think that family is, who we're supposed to be around, and that's who we're supposed to embrace, them and all their bullshit. But sometimes you have to pay attention to people's character and decide, is it worth having them around? I told you guys before, my kids have an auntie that they don't know, and leave it up to me, they'll never know her. There's no need to. Like I said, you pay attention to a person's character. So although we may have been able to eventually get past some of the things that happened directly with us, it was all the shit that came afterward. The shit that we were hearing about that had me like, fuck no. His sister slept with her sister's husband. And if you will do that, you will do anything. You damn sure can't be trusted. And that means that I would never trust you around my motherfucking household. So yeah, that's completely out. No, ma'am, you stay over there, we stay over here, and we're good to go. And as sick as that is in itself, in addition to that, the lack of accountability that comes afterward, people make mistakes. Now, I ain't saying that I would ever forgive that type of mistake, but people do make mistakes. However, later on down the line, when people are trying to heal, I noticed that a big thing in families is people like to sweep shit under the rug. And a lot of times it's out of embarrassment. They don't want to have to revisit or acknowledge the fact that they actually did something that bad. And the lack of accountability from me, it just screams that you're capable of doing it again, because you can't fix what you're not acknowledging. And since we're on the subject of sweeping shit under the rug, another thing that really needs to be addressed is that sick shit. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. The touching on each other within families and all of that shit that goes on, that unfortunately, although I have so much respect for my elders, I notice that it's a lot of the older people who tend to sweep it under the rug. And train the younger ones into thinking it's family business. We don't need to tell outsiders about our family business. No, let's be honest. Some people are victimized by family members and then they are forced to have to be raised with them or be around them and function with them. And that shit needs to stop. I truly believe that one of the worst things a mother could be to her children is silent. As a mother, you are supposed to be the voice, the protector, the guidance, the advice. And when you don't do that, there is just something so disgraceful to me about a mother that has children that chooses to be silent. Sometimes it's, because they're selfish. Sometimes it's because they're neglectful. Sometimes it's because they're naive. But when you are aware of certain things and you choose to be silent, you don't deserve kids. I don't care if your child is 5, 15, or 55. As a mother, your child will always be your child, and it is your job to protect them. And if you were to ever hear that your child has been violated or is being violated, and you choose to stay silent about that, that's not just neglect. That's betrayal. And it's the worst kind. For the person who brought you in this world to stay silent about some shit that they know has changed you forever, there's no fixing that. At the end of the day, it'll always be me and my kids against everybody before I ever make my child feel like something that big wasn't that big of a deal. Fuck that. There was a case a while back, a woman out of Detroit. Her name was Blair. Look her name up if you guys already don't know the name. But this woman murdered 2 of her children. And she murdered the first one, which was the middle child, after she found out that he had been molesting her youngest son. And she was making the oldest one help torture him for the couple days that she was torturing him before he passed away. And she put him in the freezer. And I don't remember if it was months later or a year later, but she ended up murdering the oldest one because she found out that that one also was molesting the youngest one and the middle one. She put her in the freezer, and it was a real crazy case. But I watched a couple of the YouTube videos on it, and then they came out with the Netflix docuseries. And in all of the videos that I seen, they just made this woman look like a monster. But as I'm watching her interviews, the one thing that stuck out to me, actually a couple things, but the first thing that stuck out to me from the very beginning, she stood on everything she did. Every time they brought her in court, she was having an outburst. I don't need court. Sentence me. I'm guilty. I would do it again. And I'll do it every time. She was standing on it. And she was basically saying that, one day my youngest son is going to watch this and he's going to know that I had his back and I believed him. And she brought up the fact that when she was little, she told her mom that she was being molested and she was being touched on, and the mom didn't believe her. And I couldn't help but to want to hear her side of it. Like I said, I know it's a crazy story, and I know a lot of people look at it and they're like, "What? No, she's a monster." That's exactly how all of the videos portrayed her, to be this monster. She really tortured those kids, and she stuffed them in that freezer, and she kept them there for a while until they found him. But I still wanted to know her side, because that's a hard situation to be in, but I looked at it like she never got anyone to be her voice. She never got any help for that. She never got any healing from that. She was traumatized when she went to her mom and told her mom that she had been touched and she had been molested by, it was a woman in the neighborhood. And she didn't get no help for that. And look what eventually happened. And I don't know. I sympathize with that woman. And I know that, some of y'all may judge me for that, but what are you doing that? You know what I'm saying? How can you really judge somebody for that when you don't know what she felt like as a child? You don't know what she went through in her experience. And the shit that, was reported to have been done to the youngest son, it was bad. It was really, really bad. And I think it sent her over the edge. I'm not saying that she should have took anybody's life. Not saying that. I'm just saying that there's another side to the story and another way to look at it. It's the silence that protects the predators. And I truly believe that one of the worst things a mother can do to her child is be silent. You're silent when that child is violated. You're silent later on down the road when you find out exactly who did it or when it happened. And you're silent because you don't want to break up the family. First of all, the family was broken up the minute that child was abused. They were changed forever. So not only did they have to go through what they experienced with being abused, but now they're double abused because they have to learn how to function and live with the same people that are hurting them. The amount of damage that it causes somebody to go through, sometimes it runs real deep, and a lot of people, they don't like to face it. Even when, they were the victim, they have so much displaced anger and they don't know where that comes from. And although it wasn't their fault, they're the ones that are forced to have to live with it and deal with it. I read this article that was about kids that come from homes that were abused. And it was almost like that shit was spot on. It said they grow up with a lot of rage and they carry a lot of the shame that isn't theirs. And if that isn't true, that's another thing about growing up in a house that you went through some abuse in. You get older and you don't want to talk about it. You're ashamed of it when you were the victim. You were the child. And it's not fair. It's not fair to have to live a life like that. And it's really not fair when you don't want to be the one to speak up because you don't want to feel like you're the one that's breaking up the family. Family is not who you're born to. Family is who you decide you want to be your family. Family is the people that earn that space in your world. Create a family that is going to protect you. Create a family that is going to be loyal to you. But most of all, create a family where you're safe at. And what I'm about to say might trigger some people. And by no means am I trying to offend anyone. I'm just trying to bring awareness. But the truth is, that silence is usually the exact reason why the cycle is able to continue. Because somebody didn't step up and say, that person don't need to be around kids. This is not okay. We're not dealing with this. It's so often that it's just swept under the rug. And it's made to feel like if you speak out, you're going to be the person that messes up the family. And now you got this same person in the family victimizing other people and younger generations. And it just goes on and on and on. And that's not okay. That is not okay. It takes a lot of courage to be the one to step up and break that silence. And by all means, if it comes to you having to go against your entire family or being the villain, just know you're really the superhero. Let me be clear on something. That abuse, you don't get over it. You carry it. You survive it. And if you were forced to have to learn how to coexist with it in the same room, that's trauma. Some people didn't just grow up in toxic households. They grew up in an environment where their abuser was protected more than they were. And if you think for a second that won't fuck with your mind for the rest of your life, you haven't really accepted your own truth yet. And I really hope that at least one person who watches this episode will understand that generational silence is what enables generational trauma. And that's how the cycle continues until somebody finds enough courage to break that silence, to stand up and say, you know what? I'm not hiding this no more. This shit has to stop. Because that illusion of keeping the family together or not wanting to put the family business out, that shit is going to come at the cost of another child potentially being hurt. And that is not okay. Your real healing, it doesn't start until you stop protecting the feelings of the person or people who didn't protect you. If your silence is because you're worried about how it's going to affect anybody else, you're still allowing your abuser to affect you. And that is not okay. It's not fair to you. For a person to have to carry such a heavy load for all of those years in silence is very damaging. And when you do that, it comes out in different ways that you may not realize. And it continues to affect you as a person. Not just mentally, emotionally, but psychologically, it can fuck you up. And as hard as it is to face the truth sometimes, until you do, you won't be able to release it. But listen, that pain right there, the betrayal from somebody who was supposed to protect you, sometimes that's not the only baggage that a person carries into their adulthood. Because not all abuse is sexual. Some of the abuse comes from those toxic ass family members that take advantage of the fact that we are family. And a lot of times it's crazy because we'll use the word love simply because we have the same blood as somebody. Although everything that this person may do reflects everything but love. We tend to dismiss it over and over and over again simply because we share some of the same DNA. And that shit is bullshit. It isn't enough people talking about those cousins that secretly hate on you. Or the underhanded rivalry between siblings that really isn't so harmless when you think about it. Or how about the grandparents that play the favorites? Or the fact that your parent is sometimes your very first experience with a bully. Have you ever noticed people will try to label you as the problem when you no longer want to play along with your fake ass family members? Stop letting your parents guilt trip you into being around those fake ass family members. You have to set those boundaries, regardless of who it is. If you haven't earned the right to be a part of my life, no, I don't want to come around giving you no fake ass hug. And I'm not going to sit in your face with this fake ass smile, knowing that when I walk away, you're going to talk about me behind my back like I'm a dog, simply to make my mom happy. Simply because my mom wants to see all of her kids get together. If you didn't care about how mom was going to feel when you decided to cross me or for whatever reason we fell out, I'm not going to give a flying fuck about being around you in the future. Because at the end of the day, the family that you create is the family that you need to protect. And your mom has to learn how to respect that. There's a lot of moms out there that will take the stance of, well, I'm not getting involved in whatever you guys are feuding about. But mom wants to step up and be the person that says, oh, everybody needs to come together for me. No, remember, you didn't want to get involved when the bullshit needed to be addressed. So make sure that you respect my boundaries and understand that I'm no longer dealing with that person. If mom wasn't able to dictate their actions to prevent them from crossing you or whatever led to you cutting them off and not wanting them to be a part of your life, then mom does not have the right or the say-so to dictate the fact that you no longer want to be around them. And that may sound harsh, but at the end of the day, you have to have those boundaries set in place because people will take advantage of the fact that you guys share the same blood. So they'll continue to do these things that you're not okay with simply because they look at it like, you know, okay, they might be mad, but at the end of the day, we're still family. Mom will bring us back together. Or that person isn't going to do X, Y, or Z to me because we have the same blood. No, at the end of the day, if you crossed me and I cut you off to a point where I no longer want to be around you, I am not looking at it like we are family in any type of way. And that's just what it is. One thing you got to remember is people can only play with you when they have access to you. And the people that have access to you have the ability to hurt you the worst. But once you cut those ties, they no longer have the ability to affect you in any kind of way because you're no longer dealing with them. And trust and believe, it's going to bother the hell out of some people that have to sit and watch you from the sidelines, knowing that they no longer have access to have any direct contact with you after you choose to cut them off. And sometimes there's no need to even address certain situations. The best revenge is silence, especially when it's a family member. Because when you're a good person and they no longer have that access, they have to still sit and watch you from afar be that same good person to the people that did understand your worth and they did cherish you and treat you as family. And trust me, that alone is going to eat them alive. But the real question is, when do you get to that point? When do you finally decide enough is enough? I'm not dismissing any more bullshit ass behaviors simply because we share DNA. If you're not acting like we're family, I'm not treating you like we're family. Setting those boundaries with your family is never easy. And trust me, I'm a very strong individual. And even I have been in a situation where for a long time, I let a lot of shit slide based on the whole we have the same blood thing. And it wasn't until I finally got to this phase in my life where I needed to know that everyone that I had close to me had me in the same way that I had them. Because one thing about me, when it comes to the people that I love, I'll go to the highest mountain or the depths of hell to make sure that they're okay. And I needed to be selfish for once. You know, when you've done a lot for so many people and you feel like you've been taken advantage of, it eventually starts to weigh on you real heavy when you feel like everything you give out, it never comes in return. So when I finally made the decision that it was time to look after me first, that's when I found the strength to be able to accept what it was with some of the people that I loved. And I'm going to keep it real with you. One of the hardest things that you have to do is mourning the loss of a person who isn't even dead yet. But I promise you, once you weed out all the bullshit and you get rid of all of those people that you had to question at one point, the feeling that you're left with knowing that the ones that are close to you, you don't have to second guess or question at all. It's the most refreshing, peaceful state of mind that you will ever be in. And sometimes, you know, that circle of people ends up only being this small. But the fact that you know everyone that is close to you got you the same way that you got them, it's the best feeling in the world. It's no more fake shit. I no longer have to worry about sharing any kind of space with anybody that I feel really ain't vibing with me like that. You know, whether it's, you know, hidden feelings of envy or jealousy or just hate, period. I don't have you around me. My air feels clear. Everything is about clarity. And I know that everybody around me is here out of love. And that feeling is amazing. You know how they say love is blind? And I'm sure there are plenty of other women out there that can relate when I say, when it has come to the man that we love, we will make some questionable decisions at times. But the same is also true for your family relationships. We will ignore all of the red flags simply because of who that person is to us. And, you know, just not wanting to let them go, not wanting to distance yourself. And that shit is not good. For me, my experience was with my cousin, my first cousin. She was like a big sister to me. I grew up looking up to her. I used to borrow her clothes. I used to want to do my hair like her. I really, this was somebody that was very, very close to me. And over the years, there would be all of these red flags showing that she was just envious and jealous and I would ignore them. I would even allow myself to overlook some of the most blatant signs that I should have got away from her, simply because I couldn't really wrap my head around the fact that she would feel this way towards me. And it's almost like you trick yourself. When it's somebody that you love that much, you'll trick your own mind into thinking like, no, it's not that, when it's right there in your face. I'll never forget this one situation, now that I'm detached from her completely, and I look back, it's this one situation that always sticks out to me. Like, damn, why didn't I see it? It was right there in my face. But it was around Christmas time. And at the time, my kid's dad was in prison, so it was just me and the kids. And one thing about me, I'm going to make it happen for my kids. And I didn't grow up having Christmases and shit. You guys know we was very poor when I was young. So holidays for me and giving my kids what I never had has always been very important. So, it's time to start shopping for the kids, and I'm doing everything I got to do, making sure I'm stacking their gifts up little by little. I'm talking about, I ended up, by the time Christmas came, I had my whole wall filled up for all my kids. I had 4 at the time. I got 5 now. But anyways, she had just had a baby shortly before then with her baby daddy's close friend that he called cousin. So she was in this new relationship with him, and she was struggling at the time. Financially, she was struggling. So I'm talking to her every day, like, hey, have you started getting gifts? Are you getting little by little? And because we're planning on doing Christmas at my house. This is something that we did every year. And she kept bullshitting, I really don't know how she was so bad with money, but she was very bad with money. And mind you, she was very fortunate in terms of like our other family members. They always favored her, and she was always given a lot. She's been given cars. She's just, people's doors are always open for her. She's always been given a lot of things, but she's still so terrible with money. So I'm looking at it like, damn, you live in a low income apartment. Your rent ain't nothing but like $50. What are you doing? What are you doing with your money? Like, get your shit together. And I would tell her things like this, because I feel like this. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. And if you know that you got some shit that you got to handle, like Christmas for your kids, if you don't have it all right then and there, start ahead of time. So that way it's not so much on you. However, when I realized that she wasn't getting it together, I'm not going to let, her kids come to my house and we're all spending Christmas together and they don't have shit to open. So I'm telling her, like, come on, I'm going to help you get some of this stuff. Now, at the time, I had a hookup with somebody to where they was basically, boosting. I'm going to just be honest with you guys. They was boosting, and they would give you like an item to return, and it would give you store credit, and then you could shop for what you want. I paid for that so she could have a gift card to be able to shop for her kids. And so we get the shit. And as we're shopping, I'm noticing that she's using, her amount for the youngest baby, who's really not even old enough to notice if he got toys or not. He's too young at the time. But you have a whole I think her other son was like 12, who that is going to be important to. So I'm looking at that shit. And I'm like, why are you getting hella shit for the baby? Get some shit for, the other one. And I honestly felt like she was doing that because at the time she was with the younger one's dad. And she was just a very different type of female, very, very gullible, or, I felt like that was her way to be closer to him. I felt like she wanted to be able to show the one that she was with, like, look what I did for our son type shit, which was fucked up, but it's the truth. So anyways, fast forward, we end up coming together, and I'm also getting clothes for her son and helping her. Just last minute, everything was about getting her kid stuff. So the day of Christmas, she hadn't wrapped none of their gifts yet, but she had everything put up. Matter of fact, it was in my closet. And The morning of Christmas, we're cleaning up. She's at my house and we're just getting ready. I always cook gumbo for my family every Christmas. It's like a routine that we have. And my uncle had came to drop off a big pot that I needed. And when he comes in the house, he's saying hi or whatever. But as he's leaving out, her oldest son tells him like, hey, Unc, my mom didn't get me anything for Christmas. And I was pissed the fuck off. A minute, I'm sorry. I keep saying Christmas. This is all taking place on Christmas Eve. This is what I normally do. I cook gumbo on Christmas Eve. We stay up all night into Christmas, which is why nobody had opened their gifts yet. So anyways, he says this to my uncle on his way out. And my uncle's like, oh, don't worry. Maybe she'll get you something, whatever. When he leaves, I immediately start scolding her son. I'm like, first of all, don't ever down talk your mom like that. Number two, you think you're being slick. I know that the reason you said that to my uncle was because you wanted, I don't know if it was like some type of pity party, but I was like, I know what you were doing. You wanted him to feel bad so he'll get you some stuff. Don't do no shit like that around me. That is not cool. And as I'm scolding him, she comes walking down the stairs and she's like, what happened? So I start telling her like, girl, why did he just tell Uncle da 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 da? And I was expecting her to start flashing on him. Like I said, you don't do no shit like that. I've always taught my kids don't do shit like that. When I tell you instead, her response, it just completely shocked me. But she started saying she just started letting it all out. She was like, I don't know why you think anybody want to come over here and sit around here with all these fucking gifts and see you with all your fucking gifts. Like she just started flashing. It was like, I'd never seen that part of her. And she was saying some shit that really let me know like, damn, you've been sitting over here jealous the whole time. It actually had me feeling like right there in that moment, I was feeling like, oh shit, did you put him up to this? I kind of think that she told him to go tell my uncle this, hoping that my uncle would get him some stuff. I don't really know that for sure. I'm just saying like at that moment, the way that she responded, it wasn't normal. But outside of that, she started just like going on this rant about how she's sick of having to see me with all of this and nobody wants to be around these gifts. And now, mind you, me and her have fought before. She can't beat me up. But I was sitting there so in shock. I was completely speechless. I was looking at her and I was like dumbfounded. I couldn't, all the jealousy was coming out. All of the jealousy was coming out. And I was thinking to myself, like, the fucking audacity. I just spent this entire week making sure that your kids had shit. Helping you as a mom do your job as their mother. Like, I was flabbergasted. But and I can't even, I'm not even putting into, I'm not being as descriptive as I should, but it was the amount of shit that she was saying that all pointed to her being jealous and not really wanting to be around me and see all of this stuff. And like she was saying little shit like sitting in your fucking house. And I was really just in shock. But I always think back to that situation. That one always sticks out to me because I should have picked up on the fact that I would have never knew. If that little one argument would have happened, I would have never knew. This is how you've been feeling this whole time that you've been around. You played that off real good. You real two-faced with it. But instead, we went a little while without talking. She left walking that day. She didn't even have a car at the time. She left walking. They didn't stay for Christmas. And we didn't speak for a period of time, but we went right back to being cool and it was normal and everything. When really I should have, that's dangerous. You're around me and you played it off so good around that time. I should have knew to stay the fuck away from you because you're a jealous person. And keep in mind, I ain't never been handed shit. This girl has been given so many opportunities and so many things. Whereas on my side, I've had to bust my ass. I've had to risk my freedom. I've had to, go through all type of shit to get what I have. So the fact that you're jealous of my hard ass life, it just was like, damn, what the fuck? But as I think about that situation, I think about to the several other things that I had already overlooked in the past that should have been those red flags. I caught her texting my kid's dad before, saying some shit like, she don't deserve you. And I'm like, damn, who deserves him then? You want him? Like, well, what's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? I would never. Then it was just little shit like that. But why I didn't pick up on it is because I didn't want to pick up on it. It was right there in my face. And like I said, we would have these fallouts, and we would go a brief time without speaking, but I would allow her right back into my life. And even after this situation, some time passed, we get back cool, she's right back in my life. And eventually, I owned a restaurant at one point, and she didn't have a job. She wasn't, really doing shit with her life. And I let her come work for me. And I made it to where it was super easy, because she's one thing I can't say, she's a very clean person. Like, she cleans, like she has OCD. So I was like, you can just be in charge of making sure that the shop stays clean and putting in our orders for our inventory for the week. And you're free to have an open schedule however you want. This is how much I'll pay you per week. I don't care if you spend an hour a day there or several hours. It's up to you, as long as this gets covered. As long as you're making sure that the shop is clean, the inventory is on point, and everything is good, you're free to, move around how you want. And as she's working for me, she ends up starting to sleep with the business owner next door. This dude, he had a business next door to our restaurant. Hella young, way younger than me, and she's already 6 years older than me. But anyway, as she starts messing with him, he's in a whole relationship. I already knew how this was going to play out. I know how she is. She's scary. So if this man's woman finds out about you, now you're going to be scared to come around. It's just going to be a whole headache. And I used to be on her ass about this. And it played out exactly how the fuck I said it was going to play out. She started dealing with him hella much. And then I don't know if the baby mama was hearing about it, finding out about it, but she's starting to pop up down there at the shop. And so when she's popping up now, my cousin is not coming to work all the time or slacking off. And part of that was slacking off because she was always with him, or sneaking off with him, doing whatever the fuck they were doing. She was doing shit like that. So she started slacking off on work. So I started telling her, like, look, I'm paying you to make sure that this shit is handled, and you're too busy up his ass or running and being away because you don't want to get caught by the baby mama. Like, I don't got time for that shit. And my daughter ended up telling me, like, she makes little comments about the money that we make here. And, she'll say little things. And there was one time I had went out of town, and she didn't come to work that whole time. The employees that were left on shift was my other family members. And they were like, no, she didn't come in. She didn't do anything. Okay, I'm not paying you for this week because you didn't come one time. Why would I pay you? And so when my daughter was telling her, like, how much do you want? Because she said not to pay you. My daughter was the one that ran the payroll. That's why she's the one communicating this. She said, you didn't come to work this week. You're not getting paid. And she was like, plus it was, our numbers that week were slow. So she was like, that don't have nothing to do with me. Like, she still got money coming in from here and money coming here from there, and the debit card transactions. And she started, it just let me know she was like paying attention to my pockets, and she was counting my money. Another red flag. And I was like, you know what? I'm cool. Like, I don't even got time. And shortly after this little incident, she ended up getting hella drunk, going to my sister's friend's house. They had some kind of like little get together party for one of my sister's friends. Now keep in mind, my sister is 5 years younger than me. She's 6 years older than me. You ain't got no business hanging out with these kids, but that's whatever. She goes over there. She gets hella drunk. When she gets drunk, she gets very, very loose, and she gets very embarrassing sometimes. Anyhow, one of my partners that I'm hella close with, he's like my brother. He's over there, and he ended up calling me, and he was like, bruh, your cousin is over here tripping. Like, she trying to take me down. I'm like, what? He was like, yeah, she came in the garage. He was like, it's all the dudes are in the garage. All the females are in the house. He said, She came in the garage and kept like telling me like what? Like take me to the store. And he was like, I knew, she just wanted me to take her somewhere. And so he was like, I was brushing her off and she kept saying, what, you scared? You scared? So I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Like, this shit is fucking embarrassing. Like, number one, in our city, we looked so much alike. Our moms are twins. People used to think that we were sisters. You out here acting like this, like, fuck that. So I text her and I start going off. I was like, you're hella fucking embarrassing. Like, you don't think you're too old for this? When I tell you, she texted me back and she was like, bitch, I hate you. And she put hate in big letters. And it was something about that text. It wasn't like a normal argument. You know how people argue and you know how they speak when they argue, so it may not offend you that bad. It was something about that text that it was like, I mean that, like, oh, bitch, I hate you. And I was like, what you mad about? You mad because he called me and told me that you over there embarrassing us? Like, and I was like, but you know what? I know you hate me. I can see it now. I can tell that you really have a hate in your heart for me. You're jealous. You pocket watch. You got all this shit. But I said, you know what's crazy? Is all the opportunities that you've been given, I really believe the reason why you can't get on your feet is fucking karma. And that shit goes all the way back to when you were texting my baby daddy, telling him I didn't deserve him, doing snake shit. That's snake shit, because it ain't no telling what they did. I don't put it past neither one. Ain't no telling, what led from that. Like I said, I was only able to see bits and pieces of texts. It caused me to end up whooping her ass. I left him for a while. That was a whole other story for another time. But anyway, I said that goes back to that. You live in your karma. That's why you can never get on your feet. That's why shit don't never add up for you. I wish the fuck I would have rent that's $50. You know what I'm saying? I would probably be rich somewhere. But for some reason, no matter what you do, you can never get off your ass. Yeah, that's your karma. That was the last conversation I had with her. That was the last argument. And that was the last red flag that finally popped out on me. And that was the last argument I had with her. And that was the last argument I ever needed to have with her. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. That right there, it was different. It was the way she was talking, it was very different. You could actually hear the hate through her words. I could feel it. I could feel it. And it was so crazy because it was like such an eye opener. And it just caused me to start thinking back to everything and wondering what took me so long to see this shit. And I haven't spoke to her since. And that was in 2021. But the sad part about it is because she did play such a big role in my life growing up, I had to mourn the loss of her. Like when I finally was like, fuck her, I'm never speaking to her again. And I meant that. I still within myself, I had to heal from that. Like I was hurt. I showed anger, but my feelings were really hurt. This was like my sister. And to really feel that somebody close to you could be that jealous and that envious of you, that shit cuts. And the bad part about it with her is my entire family, even all the way down to like my sister, some of the things that I talked to her about regarding her, she'd be like, nah, you really think? Everybody looked at her like she was so innocent because she's very, very, very conniving and very sneaky. That they almost like, I'm not going to say they took her side. In the beginning, a lot of people would take her side when we would bump heads about certain things, but it's because our personalities are so total opposite. I'm very outspoken. What you see is what you get. If I don't like you, you're going to know why I don't like you. If I'm feeling some kind of way, you're going to know exactly how I'm feeling. I'm never going to hide that shit. Whereas her, she throws rocks and hides her hands. You would never have guessed that she was texting my baby daddy. They didn't even speak in person. I'm talking about like not even a hello type shit. It was... you would just never expect certain things out of her. But because I knew her, I knew a different side of her. I know, the shit that she was into. We were close. This was my favorite cousin. So it was just one of those things that I had to heal from. And it took a while. And I still was very angry because I'm mad at myself that I allowed you to be that close to me simply because we were family, when you really just you held some ill feelings towards me literally for no reason. I really think it was just pure jealousy. I've never done anything to you except protected you. I fought all your battles. I would fight your boyfriends. She had a baby daddy that used to beat her fucking ass. And every time I even seen a little piece of it, I was jumping on his ass like white on rice. I did everything for her. I've literally furnished her whole house before. I had a little hookup at the time, got her all new shit. I would just always look out for her. Anytime I had a play up, I would make sure that, I include her in it. Just, you had no reason to feel the way that you felt towards me. But that let me know, like I said, sometimes the ones closest to you will be the ones that hurt you the most. And it's for some of those exact reasons why I say family is not the family that you were born to. Family is the family that you create. The people that earn that title in your life. Blood don't mean shit. Don't get me wrong. I got some family members that I'm locked in with, love them to death. I got some great family members. But for the ones that ain't, fuck you. You are not family to me. I will never speak to that cousin again, ever. I finally made the decision to be done with it, and I'll never look back. If she passed away tomorrow, I wouldn't be at her funeral, and I mean that. The bottom line is, at some point in life, you have to learn to start being as loyal to yourself as you've been to everybody else, especially the ones who didn't deserve it. And letting go of family is not betrayal. Sometimes it's self-care, and sometimes it's needed. Because like I said, some of our deepest wounds, they don't come from our enemies. They come from the place that we call home. And it's sometimes real sad, but true, that people around you they'll want to see you suffer. Call it love. Keep smiling in your face. Whole time they're stabbing you in the back and waiting on your downfall. And yet and still, we stay. We stay out of guilt. We stay out of tradition. We stay out of fear of losing that person because this is who we're used to. This is who we called family. But real love is not going to hurt you in that kind of way. And real family is never going to be the people that want to see you fall. Ever. You don't have to keep choosing people that ain't choosing you. Choose the ones that give you everything that you're giving. So that way you know it's authentic. So that way you can rest peacefully without having to question everybody that you're around. It ain't going to be easy. But sometimes healing is going to look like silence. And it's going to be distance. But it's going to get you to a space where you can have a peace of mind. And you know that everyone that is in your circle, everyone that you keep close to you, you're in safe hands with them. It's time to cut the ties with the people who don't deserve a place in your life. I'll see y'all next week. And that's a wrap for today. But I'm going to leave you with this. Never forget it's not too late. Your past doesn't define who you are. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. So keep going. This ain't just a podcast, it's a movement. So be a part of it. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. I'm building a space for everybody out there trying to rebuild what life tried to destroy. Us. Thank you for tuning in to QueenC's Against All Odds podcast. I'll see you next week with more truth, more tea, and more transformation. I'm out, y'all.